Compliance is hard, but finding the answers doesn't need to be. Join Jeff Hedges and his staff on the Pharmacy Compliance Guide as they help you and your pharmacy staff navigate through some of the complexities to help you stay stress-free and in compliance. The Pharmacy Compliance Guide is a proud member of the Pharmacy Podcast Network.
Hey everybody, welcome. Thanks for tuning in to another podcast edition here on the Pharmacy Compliance Guide. I'm Becky Templeton. I guess I did a good enough job on my last co-hosting appearance. They asked me to come back again. Today we're going to be talking about a topic that can be a little uncomfortable for people. I'm already making kind of a strained, funny face right now. I've got my little nose all crinkled up. But it's something that every employer needs to be aware of. And that's keeping in compliance when terminating employees. Author Tammy Cohen shared, "A great employee is like a four-leaf clover, hard to find and lucky to have." Over time, even our most valued employees may leave, either because of career advancement, retirement, educational pursuits. In the end, those are all things to celebrate. As an employee grows within your company, they're going to eventually climb to a point on your ladder where they need to hop to another company's ladder to keep on growing. Consequently, there are many times when employees leave either on their own accord or by your encouragement because things just aren't working out the way either party hoped. Sometimes the employee just doesn't fit in to our workflow. Maybe there's a personality conflict or they can't perform the tasks of the job. And sometimes we just find out that the people aren't who we thought they were. They turn out to be dishonest, the work ethic isn't as stellar as we had hoped, or maybe they're in direct violation of any number of items in your employee handbook. In the end, every person is different, and while each situation should be handled differently, we all must be cognizant of the ramifications pertaining to compliance and the departure of an employee. Today, we're joined by compliance guru himself, the HIPAA guy, and our very own pharmacy compliance guide, Mr. Jeff Hedges. Thank you so much for joining us today.
I'm happy to be here and glad to help share this information with our small business owners.
We know that no employer likes to terminate an employee. From the business standpoint, there's an open position that we must rehire and retrain. It can be taxing on the rest of the staff and difficult for managers to try to work in interviews and screening processes into their already jam-packed schedules. And then there's the additional emotional tie as well. These folks may be leaving unexpectedly or under strained situations, and there's personal friendships that have been forged, and they're now kind of dicey, so it can be very difficult.
Difficult is an understatement.
With so many regulations, PHI, and privacy concerns, how in the world do you prepare for an employee termination way before it even becomes a necessary discussion?
Every employer, especially pharmacies, need to have a good hiring process, and an employee handbook is a must. Do you have one? When was the last time you read it? How big is it? I have read hundreds of handbooks, the good, the bad, and the ugly. One thing I found is certain. If your handbook is less than 10 pages or greater than 30 pages, it is not working for you. The employee handbook should spell out your hiring and termination procedures. Employee handbook should not be your pharmacy's policy and procedure manual.
What extra things should the employee handbook include?
Your vacation time, sick time, and personal days. Disciplinary action, standards of conduct, what is appropriate dress, language, confidentiality requirements, and HIPAA confidentiality requirements, and spell out your EEO and ADA requirements.
So to recap, we need to ensure we have structure and clarity on expectations, but not details into the day-to-day operations.
That's correct.
So let's talk a little bit more about termination, since that's today's topic. Do you handle every employee termination the same way?
No, when the employee leaves you, either they resign or you terminate the person. When an employee resigns, the employee will give you normally a 2-week notice. You will have the opportunity to ask why they're leaving, ask questions about your operations, and what suggestions they may have in the future. You should have an exit interview. You document that exit interview, and also you need to have a document for the employee to sign so they understand the information they know about your patients and their medical conditions. This information must stay confidential after they leave employment. The HIPAA statutes are straightforward and very stringent. The ex-employees are bound by confidentiality and cannot disclose this information. They need to understand if they do, they are personally responsible, and the Office of Civil Rights usually gives these cases to the State Attorney General to prosecute.
Yikes! I don't think anyone wants to chat with OCR or the Attorney General's office.
No, definitely not.
So it's always a good idea to have those HIPAA training certificates and training logs up to date, and during the employee's departure, touch base on what they agreed to. Maybe even give them a copy for their files.
That's right.
We all know that not every employee leaves on good terms, like a retirement, transition to another company, starting a new business venture, or an educational program. What can you share with us regarding employees who are asked to leave?
Yes, when an employee is being terminated for cause, there are several other processes that you need to be aware of. First, you need to refer back to your employee handbook for offenses warranting immediate termination. There are certain items that cannot be tolerated, such as stealing, insubordination, harassing the staff, bringing an unauthorized weapon into the pharmacy, and there are a few more. These individuals are terminated immediately with an exit interview as to why they're being terminated and given the HIPAA statement to sign for ongoing confidentiality, and must exit the building immediately. In some cases, you may need to retrieve your OSHA workplace violence policy and procedure, and if warranted, implement that procedure. We live in a different world today, and you never know what's going to happen, and you never can be too cautious. Hopefully, all those listening have or will create some kind of notification of ongoing rights and responsibilities in regard of PHI. Becky, can you share a few things to folks that should consider if an employee leaves pertaining to an exit interview?
It's fine to document reasons for leaving and manager or supervisor opinions. From a compliance standpoint, please also consider the following. Number 1, you probably should notify your privacy and security officer so they can take appropriate actions. Number 2, if the employee had access to your alarm system, anything that has a locking combination or keypad, you'll probably want to update or change those codes too. Number 3, collect all keys, tokens, access cards, ID cards, parking cards, and any other item that could be used to access your facility or your equipment. Number 4, change any passwords for computer systems and programs, especially those to shared email accounts or web-based programs. Number 5, be sure to gather all work devices, phones, laptops, tablets, etc. And finally, number 6, for pharmacies, be sure if this person has a power of attorney for your DEA Forms 222 and those electronic orders, you notify your wholesaler. Again, if this person leaving has a power of attorney for your DEA Forms 222 and electronic orders, please notify your wholesalers. And an even bigger note, if they were a certificate holder, you need to notify the DEA ASAP. Jeff, do you have any words of advice for that extra step employers can take, especially when departures may be a little heated?
When you're counseling or terminating an employee, you never do it alone. You must always have a witness in the room with you. Never, ever do it by yourself. This protects you from any type of comment or accusation after the fact. There is nothing more important than having a witness because you never know what is going to be said about you. That witness is there to protect you. Larger companies that have an HR department can tag team this with the employee supervisor. However, for smaller companies, you may need to call in a secondary manager or an owner to sit as a silent observer during this process. I'd also like to share, it's a good practice to have someone with the employee as they are gathering their items to ensure any employer-owned items or sensitive items are not being taken out of the building with them.
Jeff, you shared a lot of great information with us today, and we could probably continue talking for about another hour or so just on general personnel and HR matters. But I want to say thank you so much for taking time to share your insights.
Sure thing. Please share some extra ways that can help our listeners.
Folks, we know sometimes it's hard to create the items we just discussed on your own. Either you don't have the time or the know-how. Good news! The folks here at RJ Hedges and Associates can help if you find yourself in this precarious boat. All of the compliance packages, whether it's pharmacy, DME POS, or compounding, they all come with a human resource section. Should you have any questions, your dedicated project manager is only a phone call or email away. And by the way, that person will also prepare your personnel folders, create and update your employee handbooks. How awesome is that? Plus, as any rules change, they'll automatically update your files seamlessly through the compliance portal. Hey, please make sure you tune in next time to the Pharmacy Compliance Guide here on the Pharmacy Podcast Network as we discuss the suspension of competitive bid and what it means to you. Thanks so much, folks. Have a great day.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Pharmacy Compliance Guide, sponsored by RJ Hedges and Associates. Be sure to search the entire library of podcasts, helping you stay informed on the latest pharmacy compliance issues by visiting pharmacycomplianceguide.com.